how many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there and welcome to the Weekend Update. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, my friend.
Oh, I did. But, the one thing I noticed, going out to get things now, I'm up in Massachusetts.
We should point out that you're Bill Knight, but that's besides the point.
Okay, I'm Bill Knight.
Thank you.
I'm actually a reasonable facsimile.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the holiday weekend. But,
Yeah.
I was just making an observation that, the day before Thanksgiving, I thought, the stores will be flooded and everything. And they really weren't. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I said, well, there's a lot of people that have, migrated here. It's a melting pot of a lot of different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of them were born here. They were born elsewhere and they came here. And so they really don't celebrate Thanksgiving, and the same thing the day after. But I also noticed, when I was out and about yesterday, Black Friday, the roads are going to be crowded, everything, all the shopping. I didn't see the crowds.
Do you know who they blamed? They blamed Donald Trump. Yes, sir.
It's not Donald Trump.
No,
because,
the media was saying it was Trump, but, apparently the Trump has already had an effect on our economy with the downturn on Black Friday sales.
No, that's not the downturn. And, they're the downturn. This is a carryover from them. But, I look at things like I see a story today from the University of Buffalo, about and they're studying, should we decolonize Thanksgiving? Because, about our heritage and everything like that, because it doesn't talk about anybody else. And, I'm sitting there.
Are these people aware of the fact that Thanksgiving, the first Thanksgiving were the Pilgrims? I mean, there wasn't a lot of other people around. It was the Indians and it was the Pilgrims,
They don't want to talk about American history. Now, the funny thing that, it's not a funny thing, it's just a fact. Every culture has their own Thanksgiving, a celebration of them. But we should throw ours away for everybody else in the world and feel sorry for them, for us, And I'm like going, what the hell are we trying to shove down everybody's throat and teach our American children?
I think what we're finding out is that the woke left, they're in their final death throes. They don't realize that their entire narrative has been destroyed by the election. I mean, they're still thinking that they have a voice and that people should follow what they have to say. No,
but you know what? They're thinking they don't have a voice. Everybody has a voice, and I actually had an epiphany on all of this political stuff, but we're not going there right now. But some of these influencers from the left, they're going, well, the reason we lost is we didn't spend enough money. We just need more money.
Yes.
No, you lost because we're tired of your crap.
Bill, they spent $1 billion, $20 million, at least. $1 billion, $20 million. They blew the billion, and they're $20 million more in debt, at least.
Well, Kamala admitted in her drunken stupor, with her husband. Now, this is interesting. You probably saw it. You know, she first came out last weekend with the video that even the left was going, well, she was drunk there. Then for Thanksgiving, she and her husband do a video, same background, same outfit that they released on late Wednesday or early Thanksgiving. And I'm like going, stink, stank, stunk. Was she changed clothes in that many days?
She probably, it looked like the Thanksgiving was shot first, and the one that was released last week where she was looked a bit inebriated was done after that.
If you look at the one where they did the Thanksgiving, she was looking a little
foggy. Yeah.
Foggy.
Yeah.
The sun was setting on her on her demeanor. And so she did that and then she did the other. But releasing two videos that far apart, especially Kamala's a nothing, but still, you don't wear the same outfit. Well, we're going to release these separately. Maybe I ought to change.
She looked really rugged for somebody who's been spending.
Both of them.
You know, for somebody who's been spending a couple of weeks in Hawaii, you would have thought she'd look great. You know, rested and nice tan and just vibrant from being away from the limelight. But she looked like she spent the entire 2 weeks in a room crying. It looked terrible.
Oh, I'd love to hear some stories from locals there. Did you hear anybody? Oh, we met Kamala, and she's such a wonderful person. I've never run into a person, or not me personally running into a person, but heard a story of saying, we ran into Kamala, and she's such a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
You've never heard a story like that.
No.
You've heard quite the opposite, but you've never heard the story.
Well, they say, what was the figure I heard? 93% of her staff has been turned over since she's been vice president.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot.
They can't get any, they get turned over, and the staff from being $20 million in the hole.
I also heard that she had this thing like you do not, if you work for her, you don't refer to her as Kamala.
Well, that was before she was ever elected, and during and after. But you mentioned the over $1 billion, and then the $20 million they went into the hole. But she admitted in one of those two videos, I think it was the Thanksgiving one, that she goes, and we raised over $1.4 billion. That's $1.4 billion. Yeah, and I'm like going,
yeah.
So there's discrepancies in that money, and they're in the hole. Where did they spend it?
They had a video meeting where they were talking about the fact that they lost the money, and nobody in the group that were responsible for her campaign were taking responsibility for the money. Nobody said, "Well, it was my fault. I shouldn't have had you do this."
Well, who was their accountant? There had to be somebody that was.
I think it was the accounting firm of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Yeah, and they've left the country.
I think they have. Yes.
No, a lot of people are richer thanks to that, and but they didn't win the election. And from what I heard, I think you mentioned it. When we talked over the weekend, that there were, and this is kind of weird too. The analysis in these blue states that she didn't actually win those.
Right. Actually, in every state, Bill, at least this is what one of the the follow-up polls that were done. It actually was factual that the Republicans, if they didn't win the state, at least they grew in popularity in every single state in the union, even Massachusetts, which is kind of amazing. They may have lost it, but they had more of an influence.
Do you remember right after the election, the House count was I don't know, 214 to 189 or something like that, and we're going, whoa, boy, this is going to be massive, But these blue states, they held on and they held on counting those votes. Oh, we got to count these votes.
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks, and trucks were coming in with suspect ballots.
Yeah, we found some more ballots. Where were they? They were at the printers.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden in California, where there are a lot of congressional seats there, those just magically turned blue. But even those wouldn't have been enough to get them close to the Republican mark. The Republicans have it, but by a very narrow margin.
Well, I heard that President Trump nominated 3 Republican representatives to his cabinet to other positions, and there's concern that if they don't fill them with Republicans, they're going to have a 1-vote margin. One vote. Now, I think they're going to fill them with Republicans myself. Those are all strong. President Trump is not dumb. He's got 3 districts that are strong Republican districts, and I'm sure he feels that either they'll be appointed or they'll get them back. I think they're appointed, Bill. I could be wrong, but I think they're appointed. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but who knows?
If there's a way that they can steal it, they'll steal it. That's what they've done. That's what they do. And they always have. I heard somebody the other day whining and complaining on, I've been a Democrat since I could register back in 1996, and Every election, I voted Democrat because I want democracy. Let me tell you something. If you are a registered Republican or Democrat, and you voted only one way, that's one party authoritarianism. You're not into democracy, and the free will of the public. There's a flaw in the policy there where you're just voting for your party. It doesn't matter, and so in that essence, James Carville is right. It's not about what you want and what you believe. It's very authoritarian in its makeup. It's not about, it's about one party rule. And I can say, I'm a Republican, but I voted on the other side of the fence because I look at the tickets and I look at the person, what I think they represent, and I will cross the line. That's, in my estimation, that's democracy.
Yeah.
It's the people's choice.
I was thinking about, you were talking about the different voting situations in California where they were trucking in stuff, you think. And I was thinking about Christine Pelosi, and that I can't find the audio, but we had it last week, where she was gleefully asking people to join her as she cured. They call it curing ballots. You got to love it. Even the name, curing ballots.
I didn't know it had a cold.
Well, yeah, it's what they're saying to you is, well, these are faulty ballots, but we're going to make sure that we correct them in their favor. By the way, I would be willing to bet you that she didn't cure any ballots that were Republican. They were just Democrat.
96% of the vote in America has to be cured because they're Trump.
Yeah, but what amazes me, Bill, is that it should be illegal for them to be counting ballots 3 weeks after. There shouldn't be any. That should be a no-brainer. 3 weeks after the cutoff date is 2 days, maybe, or 1 day. 3 weeks, forget. There is so much corruption that can take place in the course of that time. But when you have someone like Gavin Newsom as the governor of that state, and he happens to be on your side of the ledger, then he's not going to step in and stop it.
No. Is he going to have a competition from Kamala in a few years when he?
I don't know. I think Kamala is done. I really do. I think
she's toast too, but she just hasn't gotten the word yet. But there are people there going.
Well, do you know who they're talking about?
Who?
This will knock you on your keister.
Keister, yeah.
Supposedly, Hillary is talking about a run again in 2028 when she'll just be a spry 81 years old.
81 years old.
Yeah,
and she's going to run.
That's what they're saying. Saying.
She's running for what?
I think she thinks she's running for president.
No. She's going to be older than 81 years old.
No. Sorry, she was born in 46, so she'd be 82, I guess, right? Or close to it, 81 or 82. But
either way, I think it's a tad.
But
old.
82 is the new 69. I don't know, 68.
If you remember back in 2016, she was failing. Now she's had a lot of time to sit in her keister and rest.
Remember when she was trying to get into her SUV and she collapsed? They had that video of her trying to get in, and the Secret Service agents had to catch her, as she was dropping. I mean, I agree with you. I think, but some people, their egos just won't let them give up. I was reading an article this morning. Bill Clinton was supposedly angry for 2 years after the 2016 election because of he believes that Russian collusion was behind. Russian collusion.
Collusion might.
Keister, I know. Anyway, a lot of other things to talk about. Before we go any further, we should take a moment to remind people that they can get our delicious Jim and Bill's Right Side coffee, medium roast, and medium decaf roast at our storefront, which is rightsideshop.com. Rightsideshop.com. And you'll also find some of our hats and T-shirts and sweatshirts and cups And it's really worth a visit, especially now that we're into the Christmas season. You know, Thanksgiving's behind us. We've moved on. The trees are up for the most part. Lights are up, decorations. And we're into that mode. And you might want to be thinking about something for a stocking or even if you have a liberal friend and you want to send them a prank gift. You know, you might want to get something from our shop. It's rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com. And don't forget, it's the only place where you hear this jingle.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
That by itself makes it worthwhile, don't you think?
Those guys do it so well. I mean, you know, it's a simple thing, Right Side Coffee, but nobody sings it better than them.
No, they really don't. And, you know, you get them, you know, you got to hear them while you can, because when Tom Homan is in, they may be doing it from across the border again. But
well, they got big voices. They can probably
project.
Carry it that far. Who knows, you know. Interesting
item, and this completely fell off the radar, Bill. This is a Saturday program. Saturday programs were a little looser, you know. We have some other big stories to talk about, but this one is kind of a I don't know, rest area from. This is a story that's gotten by the media. Mm-hmm. This week, I believe it was this week, maybe it was last week, they had a hearing in Congress. One of actually many hearings that this guy has testified in front of. His name is Luis Elizondo, and he worked for the Department of Defense and I believe the CIA. And he was involved with a highly secretive program with regard to, I think they call them UAFs now. No, UAPs. UAPs. Yeah, they used to be called, when I was a youngster, UFOs, but they've decided that sounded too, I don't know, sci-fi, and they changed it. But he comes out in front of Congress and says they exist. You got to hear this. Listen.
I will now recognize Mr. Elizondo for his opening statement.
Greetings, Chairwoman Mace, Chairman Grothman, Ranking Members Connolly and Garcia, and members of the committee. It is my honor and privilege to testify before you on the issue of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, formerly known as UFOs. On behalf of our brave men and women in uniform and across the intelligence community, as well as my fellow Americans who have awaited this day, thank you for your leadership on this important matter. Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies. For many years, I was entrusted with protecting some of our nation's most sensitive programs. In my last position, I managed a special access program on behalf of the White House and the National Security Council. As such, I appreciate the need to protect certain sensitive intelligence and military information. I consider my oath to protect secrets as sacred, and I will always put the safety of the American people first. With that said, I also understand the consequences of excessive secrecy and stovepiping. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the aftermath of 9/11, which many of us remember all too well. I believe that America's greatness depends on three elements. A watchful Congress, B, a responsive executive branch, and C, an informed public. Over the last decade and a half, I learned that certain UAP programs were and are operating without any of these elements. Although much of my government work on the UAP subject still remains classified, excessive secrecy has led to grave misdeeds against loyal civil servants, military personnel, and the public, all to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. A small cadre within our own government involved in the UAP topic has created a culture of suppression and intimidation that I've personally been victim to, along with many of my former colleagues. This includes unwarranted criminal investigations, harassment, and efforts to destroy one's credibility. Most Americans would be shocked to learn that the Pentagon's very own Public Affairs Office openly employs a professional psychological operations officer as the singular point of contact for any UAP-related inquiries from citizens and the media. This is unacceptable. Many of my former colleagues and I have provided classified testimony to both the Department of Defense and the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and many of us have subsequently been targeted by this cabal with threats to our careers, our security clearances, and even our lives. This is not hyperbole, but a genuine fact, and this is wrong. To fix these problems, I propose 3 principal actions. First, Congress and the President should create a single point of contact responsible for a whole-of-government approach to the UAP issue. Currently, the White House, CIA, NASA, the Pentagon, Department of Energy, and others play a role, but no one seems to be in charge, leading to unchecked power and corruption. Second, we need a national UAP strategy that will promote transparency and help restore the American public's trust at a time when the public's trust is at an all-time low. This strategy should include a whole-of-government approach, including the academic and scientific communities, the private sector, and our international partners and allies. Third, Congress should create a protected environment so whistleblowers desperate to do the right thing can come forward without fear. As it currently stands, these whistleblowers suffer because of stigma, a code of silence, and concerns about retaliation. These whistleblowers should be encouraged to come forward in ways that protect them against any forms of retaliation. Policies and procedures should ensure that protection, and for those who refuse to cooperate, it is up to the members of this committee and the other lawmakers to wield their subpoena power against hostile witnesses and prevent additional government funding to those UAP efforts that remain hidden from congressional oversight. In closing, we as Americans have never been afraid of a challenge. In fact, we thrive on them, whether it's eradicating polio or going to the moon. We don't run from a challenge, we take it head on. To the incoming administration and Congress, I say to you, we need immediate public transparency. And this hearing is an important step on that journey. If we approach the UAP topic in the same way as we as Americans have met other challenges, we can restore our faith in our government institutions. Together, we can usher in a new era of accountable government and scientific discovery. I believe that we as Americans can handle the truth, and I also believe the world deserves the truth. Thank you, esteemed members of Congress, for your time today. It is profoundly appreciated by many.
And that was like this week, or maybe last week, but it was within the last few days, and crickets when it comes to getting it out to the people. It was like, nothing to see here. It's only a UFO story, you know. Who wants to believe in that?
You know, there's a lot of technology out there, and you know, you look at Russia, because Russia, I know, had some encounters on their soil, and then you wonder about their hypersonic, their rockets that can't be touched. Where'd they get the technology?
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree with you. There's another piece of audio I'm going to play right now because they kind of tie in together. You just heard Luis Elizondo. He worked for the Department of Defense. He was around this stuff. Even as he was testifying, there were certain things that he couldn't say because of secrecy. So he was sworn to secrecy, top secret stuff. But he said enough to let you know that, yeah, it exists, and our government is not being straight with us, and they're not being straight with Congress. Apparently, folks, there's a budget that we all know about, and then there's a black budget that is below the surface that nobody knows about except for the deep state. And a lot of that money gets spent on strange things that haven't even been talked about in Congress, never mind approved by Congress. Case in point, there's a guy named Eric Hecker. Eric Hecker, he's a former Raytheon contractor. He was, I believe he was a plumber. I mean, that sounds, but not just like a plumber that comes in and fixes your bathroom. This guy worked, with big machinery and stuff like that for Raytheon. They make a lot of top secret stuff for the government. And he was sent down to Antarctica as a job, an assignment. Go down, spend a year down in Antarctica, and you'll make some good bucks. And so he went down, thinking it was going to be kind of a straightforward kind of thing. Well, he testified in front of, this is a press conference interview here, but he did speak in front of Congress, I believe, also. Listen to what he has to say.
I will start, since we have to be brief. I have already given all pertinent information and supporting documentation to the Senate Intelligence Committee and AARO. They informed me that all of my information will be recorded for public record and shared with Congress. It is that important. In 2010, I was selected to go down to the South Pole Station in Antarctica for an entire year by Raytheon Polar Services as an employee of a third-party contractor for the National Science Foundation. I function in a dual-role capacity as a tradesman and a firefighter. My responsibilities required me to be more informed than most of my crew and offered me complete access to the facilities. What I learned from this unique experience needs to be shared with the entire world. The technology at the South Pole Station certainly can do what it is presented as its primary purposes, and unfortunately, much more. The IceCube neutrino detector is presented as a passive listening device for the purposes of the science as presented. But I'm going to skip right through the chase, folks. I have provided documentation that proves that the 5,160, what they call DOMs, that are embedded in the ice can actually transmit at 2,047 volts each. That gives us a long list of things to consider. It is effectively a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform that I will list rapidly a few things that it can do. Vehicle detection. We're learning that these off-world craft, on-world craft, ours or other nations, are also emitting neutrinos. So this makes the South Pole Station effectively an air traffic control station for this new level of equipment that nobody's discussing. In addition to the ability to detect neutrinos and the exotic vehicles, I provided documentation that shows that this is also a system for faster than light communications. In the past, Gary McKinnon has hacked NASA, found the off-world fleet, the list of captains, and it's apparent that if we have faster-than-light vehicles moving throughout the system, we're going to need faster-than-light communications. This is that facility. Unfortunately, I have other bad news. The season that I was there, 2010 to 2011, we converted from construction to operations and maintenance in both the elevated station and the detector array. Unfortunately, when they first fired it up, that was when we had the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand. There was 2 incidental shots before they were able to target it correctly. This is an earthquake generating device as well. This is the weapons of war that we have to deal with now and what Raytheon's hiding. There's an ELF system at the South Pole Station that when I arrived, I was told it was off, dismantled, and completely defunct. In my work, I will rapidly just tell you, I had to figure out the circuitry for certain other repairs, and I found that this system is, in fact, completely energized, up and running, and being utilized with the other systems for nefarious purposes as well. The Atmospheric Research Observatory is in what we call the clean air sector. I witnessed myself a very powerful green laser shooting out of the top of this facility into the cosmos. This, I believe, is a secondary form of long-range communications and or a defense system. I am not saying that we need to be scared of anything that's out there, but please understand the military-industrial complex is happy to invest all of your money in alleviating their fears. A question of power comes into play for all of these facilities that are present. I assure you, I knew what was going on. I knew the load demands of the facility, and all of these new items exceed the demand for the systems that I was presented. I am doing due diligence and research. I believe there is either a secondary power supply there that is either nuclear, that was there prior to the start of the Antarctic Treaty, which prohibits such things, and or that there is some sort of exotic power supply system there that just is not in the verbiage of the treaty, so it negates the responsibility to the parties involved. I think that pretty much covers it for time.
That's Eric Hecker. He, a whistleblower. You can believe it or not believe it. I think people in our government would like you not to believe it. But
right.
When you put the two together, Luis Elizondo, especially Luis Elizondo, he has a resume that it gives him credibility,
Right.
He worked for the Department of Defense and CIA. And
it's interesting how a lot of these stories, center around under ice caps. There's a lot of things when you talk about alien technology and whatnot, where they seem to have an origin there, does it not?
Well, they say, now you're hearing, I used to think that spaceships when I was younger. They were just in the air, but now over the last several years, they have said that they can go in the air and then they can fly into the water, and that's a lot of their bases are underwater. They say. I mean, this is all speculation again.
Oh, right.
Theory,
it is
but,
speculation.
But I do think that it's interesting when you hear somebody like Elizondo say, it's real. It's real. I can't tell you all of it, but I can tell you that it's real, and that Congress should know about this stuff, and the American people should know about this stuff too. And this, I think, goes again to the deep state. Bill, there's so much we don't know. We are told what they want us to know, and everything else is buried.
That's true.
Getting back to the seriousness of our world, I said that was an off ramp for a rest area. There were over, I guess it was Friday, Putin warned that Russia was going to use hypersonic missiles to attack Ukraine decision-making centers, meaning Kyiv, where Zelensky and his people are. So you know what happened later that afternoon?
What was that?
Later that afternoon, President Zelensky agreed for the first time to cede territory to Russia in order to end the war. But there was one caveat.
Yeah, this is the caveat that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
This is where he wants to be a NATO nation member.
Yeah, and Russia's not going to do that.
Well, go back to the beginning. What was this war about? Russia does not want NATO on its border.
Right.
Right. And or relatively close to it, because what is NATO all about? It's the thumb, the raspberry to Russia.
If you remember last week, I really believe this. When we first heard about the missiles being launched from the Ukraine into Russia, I said on the show that I thought that it was Zelensky's way of pulling us into the war, by pulling NATO into the war, and in so doing, making them part of NATO, and apparently that's what he wants. He wants us to be either full participants in the war or to not be in the war at all. I don't know. He is a not to be trusted kind of guy, I think. What are your thoughts? Do you think that the Ukraine is going to cede the territory, and will they have any? Is this the beginning of their concessions? Right now, they're saying we'll cede the territory, but you have to make us a member of NATO. Russia's going to say no. We're going to keep slamming you. Will he have a comeback? Will Zelensky say, well, okay, we don't have to be members of NATO, but we have to sit down and talk? It has to be.
I think they're in their hurry-up huddle here, is what I think. And I think that they've got, some 50 days left before Trump takes over. So whatever they want to pull off any shenanigan, they're going to do. And it's not over. Russia's not going to concede to say, yeah, you can have that part be NATO. But what could happen is that you still got Crazy Joe in the White House and Democrats that still, pull some levers. Yeah, they could get us into a nice little shooting match, because I don't think they care. And, do they understand what nuclear war is, or do they care?
I don't know.
Or are they
care.
so safe in it?
I think that Russia's saying, look, we're going to, in our next move is to level your decision-making centers like Kyiv. I think that literally hits home.
And let me ask you.
All of a sudden, I think they're starting to get second thoughts. Up until this point, Zelensky has been miles from the front. He wears that nice little khaki-colored or olive drab-colored outfit, but he's not really carrying a rifle into combat.
No, he's pretty clean for a guy that's out there fighting the war. He never gets his shirt wrinkled, dirty, sweated on, or anything. So. He comes in, it's all pressed and everything, but he's in military fatigues. He's like an actor portraying a combat soldier. It's fake. It's all there for show. And, talking about leveling the decision-making centers, well, Russia, is touting their hypersonic missiles, their ballistic missiles, their intercontinental ballistic missiles, that they can get anywhere and strike anywhere at any time. Is Washington, D.C. not a decision-making center?
Yeah, I was thinking, and this ties into the two pieces of audio we played just before this story, when they were talking about Antarctica and the system that they have in place down there, it being essentially what do they say, an energy generating system, a targeted energy system directed energy system.
Right.
And I was thinking, we've talked in the past about, on this show, I'm talking within the last couple of years, something called the rods of God. And we've always, and that people will say, well, they're there, and then you hear nothing about it, the rods of God.
Right.
Let me explain for those of you who don't know, and this is a Saturday program, we do take these off-ramps. The rods of God are directed energy weapons that are, I guess, they come off a satellite. And they supposedly used them in places like Maui. They've used them in other places around the world. People have seen out of nowhere these bluish beams that have come out of the sky and taken out buildings and things like that. And they always back away from it. I mean, the government doesn't want to talk about it, and the media doesn't want to investigate it. And it never seems to get any traction, almost like they've been instructed to stay away from that. What I got from when I listened to what this guy Hecker was saying about Antarctica with the 5,000 nodes that they have in the ice that generate this beam, where does it generate it to? It would seem to me that it generates it to a satellite, almost like bouncing it off a satellite toward a target. It doesn't generate the power on the satellite. The satellite essentially acts as a mirror, so that it can bounce the energy to a different spot on the globe. And that would make sense. I used to think, how can a satellite generate that much power? They're not that big. They have to, by nature, be of a certain weight to get them into orbit. This would make sense. It would be like if you're standing out, in the middle of a desert, and you want someone a long range off to see you, and you have a mirror in your hand, right? Mm-hmm. So you get the sun to reflect off the mirror, and they see you, your friends see you, because it reflects. That's what this would be like. I think there's a possibility that those things do exist. And by the way, getting back to the hypersonic, maybe we haven't gone full speed ahead, so to speak, into hypersonic weaponry, because we have something in place that will take out that hypersonic missile.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, there's speculation, there's things out there, but we don't know. And whatever we have, you got to think that somebody else has to and access to.
No, not necessarily, Bill. We had a lot of things for a long time that other countries didn't have until, for example, Bill Clinton. China could not get their guidance on their ICBMs to work until we gave China the information, and that was because of Clinton.
That was true. I mean, back in the 60s, our satellite or our spaceships that were up there, they had gear to where somebody could be sitting on a park bench reading the paper, and we could sit there and see the print on that paper.
Right.
Our bombs, our missiles could pinpoint and hit within the diameter of a dime. And Russia and China couldn't do that till Mr. Clinton gave that away.
Yeah.
And so why was it important to give that away?
Well, some people think it was because of money. You have to ask yourself, how does a governor of a state who makes, I think his income was $35,000 a year as governor from the state of Arkansas when he was governor, at least the first time around.
Right.
How did they end up being so wealthy? The presidency didn't pay him multi-millions of dollars.
No.
But they all end up with more money than they'll ever need.
It boggles the mind how that works.
Other thing is, there's something going viral right now. In case you haven't, have you seen the program Landman?
No, I haven't watched that yet. Actually, I was going to let it get a few episodes in because usually, if I binge watch something, I want to go for a little while, and have some meat on the bone.
I watched the first 3 episodes. Episode number 4 is this weekend, And in the third episode, there's a scene, and when I saw the scene, I thought, "Oh my God, this is gonna make some waves." I didn't realize the waves that it was going to make. Apparently, it's the scene has been cut from the episode. Somebody took just the scene and posted it, and it's gone viral. And it's gone viral because it's Billy Bob Thornton talking to another character in the movie who he's showing he's at a wind farm in Texas, and you see these giant windmills spinning around, huge. I mean, they're the size of skyscrapers, right? And she is a lawyer / environmentalist. You know, she thinks oil's terrible, even though she's in the oil fields right now. You know, and Billy Bob Thornton's giving her a lecture, and this is he's just like a rigger foreman down there in the oil wells. He's not a great educated guy, but he knows what he's talking about. This was written by a guy named Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan has produced Yellowstone and Tulsa Kings and The Mayor of Kingstown, and he's just an amazing kind of guy. And he's down home. I want you to hear this segment. I warn you, there's some language in this that is tough, but this is from the episode. They ran it this way. Now, if you are sensitive to these kind of things, if you find it off-putting, I would suggest that you turn away for a couple of minutes, because he uses some foul language in this, and I understand that, but I have to play it because it's in context. If I start taking things out of it, it won't sound like it was meant to be, okay? Mind you, this is from a Hollywood superstar, Taylor Sheridan and Billy Bob Thornton. And listen to what they're saying.
Have any idea how much diesel they have to burn to mix that much concrete or make that steel and haul this shit out here and put it together with a 450-foot crane? You want to guess how much oil it takes to lubricate that fucking thing or winterize it? And its 20-year lifespan, it won't offset the carbon footprint of making it. And don't get me started on solar panels and the lithium in your Tesla battery. And never mind the fact that if the whole world decided to go electric tomorrow, we don't have the transmission lines to get the electricity to the cities. It'd take 30 years if we started tomorrow. And unfortunately for your grandkids, we have a 120-year petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on, the wheels on every car ever made, including yours. It's in tennis rackets and lipstick and refrigerators and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic. Your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, any kind of clothing that's not made with animal or plant fibers, soap, fucking hand lotion, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it. Every fucking thing. And you know what the kicker is? We're going to run out of it before we find its replacement.
It's the thing that's going to kill us all. As a species.
No, the thing that's going to kill us all is running out before we find an alternative. And believe me, if Exxon thought them fucking things right there were the future, they'd be putting them all over the goddamn place. Getting oil out of the ground is the most dangerous job in the world. We don't do it because we like it. We do it because we run out of options. And you're out here trying to find something to blame for the danger besides your boss. There ain't nobody to blame but the demand that we keep pumping it.
I got to tell you, friends, everything he said there was spot on, and I see people in Hollywood cringing over that. I mean, it's, oh my God, how do they get the funding for that? You know, well, I think what's interesting is he pulls no punches. He's standing under the windmills, and like I said, they're giants. He says, you know how much oil's in those things?
Oh yeah, and they break down all the time. You see the blades falling off. You hear the gears. Nobody wants to climb up those things because to go up and service them for whatever reason, like in Pennsylvania, they were talking about, oh yeah, it's a great paying job. You go up, you go up the center shaft and you get up there. There's snakes up there. Those snakes go and they wind their way up. So you're battling nature inside of that thing, and a pissed off nature at that too. So you've got that going on. Those windmills rely on wind. And you know what we have a drought on right now at a lot of those farms? Wind.
Yeah, they don't have, I guess you can't recycle them. You can't use them again. You can't bring them back, refurbish them, and put them back.
No, once it's done, it's done. And the lifespan of them, the one that you could make out of parts that you find in your garage would be a lot better than those big turbines that they're putting out there. You have a better chance of replacing it, but there is no self-reliant renewable energy right now that's of a consistent nature for you.
Yeah, I love the line where he says, if these things worked, don't you think the country would be covered with these things? It would be the oil companies that would be putting them up. They got the money. But I just think that that's the kind of thing that it goes so against the left's narrative. It goes so against the environmentalist narrative that I'm amazed it got produced. I'm amazed it made it to a network. By the way, that's on Landman, Landman. They've had 3 episodes so far. By the time you hear this weekend, it probably will have 4 episodes. It is a good series, great acting. Billy Bob Thornton is amazing in this series, at least so far.
It's probably produced out of the company out of Georgia.
It's produced by Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan. I think it's 101 Productions. 101
Studios.
Yeah,
well, that's out of Georgia.
Yeah, they have a big Georgia peach at the end of the episodes. You know why they have that, Bill? Because they get tax credits.
Yeah, I think because I know somebody that got into acting and they're out there and what they're kind of like the old Hollywood thing.
Yeah,
where actors were contract with the studio instead of just being independent. That's kind of what they're doing down there. So they have a big, I think it was the old airport they took and they turned it into studios or a warehouse or a combination thereof. Tyler Perry actually is the mind behind that. But yeah, they do a lot of the stuff. So you don't have, and I think he might be a little bit liberal, but they don't have that.
Oh, he's big time liberal.
Yeah. They don't have that liberal, thing that's going on out west where they control everything. So there you've got less of a filter.
Speaking of liberals in Hollywood, Alec Baldwin was at a press conference, I believe in Italy for Spain for some project he's working on. And, these people in Hollywood, they really and truly think of themselves as being much more important than they actually are. Alec Baldwin was telling the media about how uninformed the American people are. We're really a bunch of uninformed rabble. This is Alec Baldwin. This is the guy who shot that camera lady, that camera person, that cinematographer. I'm sure I know it was an accident, but still, you would have thought that if he's around guns as much as he's around guns, that no matter who he is and where he is, he would check it before he pulled the trigger on it. But apparently he didn't, and everybody knows that devastating result. Now apparently he's gone on with his life, and he's out lecturing the world about how Americans are ill-informed. Listen.
In my country, without going into significant detail, half the people in the country are happy, and half the people in the country are very unhappy. It's a very difficult time in the United States, and I think the only way people can learn what is happening, and film is unique in this way, not only what's happening in the United States, but around the world. What's happening, you might not learn from the news. Television news in the United States is a business. They have to make money. And again, not to go into great detail about that, but there's a hole, there's a vacuum. There is a gap, if you will, in information for Americans. Americans are very uninformed about reality, what's really going on. With climate change, Ukraine, Israel, you name it, all the biggest topics in the world, Americans have an appetite for a little bit of information. That vacuum is filled by the film industry. Not just the independent film industry, not just the documentary film industry, which are very important around the world, but by narrative films as well, where the filmmakers and the buyers, the studios and the networks and the streamers are willing to go that way. They're willing to try to make films that are not only entertaining, but informative as well.
Alec Baldwin, boy, does he think a lot of himself. Yeah, he said there's a hole, there's a divide, there's a gap. It's between his ears, This guy is he just is so caught up in his own self-importance, and we're all a bunch of ill-informed rabble,
Yeah, that's their mindset there. That they are the elite. They are the knowledge ones. They're educated, and they have all the answers and the direction of the world. Us,
Yeah.
we just we're Neanderthals and we drag our knuckles and we're not even good for that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, anyway, he's not the only one doing this. It was a video, I don't have it, of, gosh, I can see
It'll
it.
come to you after
Rosie
the show.
O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh,
when that happens when you get to be my age, you really start to doubt yourself. Rosie O'Donnell was out and criticizing the people for being ill-informed. And now we've warned them, she said, of fascism. And now we're going to find out what fascism is all about. I mean, it's like, do these people have any idea what the hell they're talking about? I mean, they really and truly think that we're lost in space, but have they ever sat down and really listened to what they're saying? Because it's ridiculous.
Everything that they preach against, they're actually guilty of, and I get so, well, they're Nazis. Well, you guys are acting like a bunch of Nazis. You're fascist. Well, you guys are acting like a bunch of fascists. Every label that they throw out there, they are guilty of.
Yeah.
And that makes me sick. And then I'm sick and tired of the word hyperbole,
I know.
It's like, I want to get a T-shirt and put hyperbole on it, but a cow looking backwards where you're staring at its tail up so that you understand the definition, of what it is. They
It was back a few years ago, the word was gravitas, which drove me nuts. It has no gravitas. Another thing is the left-leaning liberal media, like, dare I say, people like Jim Acosta. He was sitting down with a couple of his fellow CNN liberal reporters, and they were complaining already about Trump and where the whole thing is going right now. Listen to what he had to say.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I do want to ask both of you about some video. If you haven't seen this video yet of Elon Musk getting chummy with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago for Thanksgiving, they were apparently dancing in their chairs to YMCA. There's Barron Trump next to the president-elect, but there's Elon Musk right next to him in his X sweater, I think, and a blazer. But Tara, I mean, this does raise a lot of questions about what Elon Musk's role will be in this incoming administration. I mean, just this week, he has been targeting federal employees on X. He has been going after people like Colonel Alexander Vindman, accusing him of treason the other day on X. And he's been given this very big platform with the government. According to Donald Trump, he's going to be finding areas to cut in the federal government. What do you make of this relationship right now?
It's all really creepy, but money talks, and it's clear that Elon Musk has a motive here. He sees by cozying up to Donald Trump, he's going to have influence in ways that he's never had before. Not just being, he's had a lot of influence being the richest man in the world, but this is a whole different thing. He's literally taking on the role of, a favorite son, first lady, and shadow president. This is scary stuff for people. And Elon Musk has no business having a security clearance, all of these government contracts, and now this level of influence with the president of the United States. It's all dysfunctional. These guys are going through this group trauma therapy session with each other. And the fact that Elon Musk is the guest that won't leave, and that Donald Trump continues to give him this role, it speaks volumes. Why wasn't Elon Musk with his own family? Where is that? This is his new family now? This is his new project? Because he's so emotionally stunted that this is making him feel relevant. And the fact that as a country and in the world, geopolitics are going to be influenced by this guy going through whatever psychosis, processing he's going through, should scare the hell out of everybody. Because this is not just in the but they're influencing and trying to target people also in other countries. This is not just here in the U.S. with this intimidation factor. So the tentacles of this are really, really long. We should keep paying attention to it. I'm glad that we are now.
That's CNN, and that's some of their people. Jim Acosta hosting a little panel there, and I'm amazed he's still working there. He was such a a lightning rod for liberal attacks on President Trump in the first term. He just and here he is again raising his. But he looks a little more nervous this time. But I watched the video of that, and he looks a little more concerned. Like, I don't think a lot of these people thought that Trump was actually going to win the second time around. And I think they're kind of in shell. She talks about us being in some kind of a therapy. I think they are the people who are trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, they all need to go get therapy right now because they're there's a risk of them harming themselves and those of us that are around them. They need therapy because they can't accept the fact that 96% of all the deplorables, the uneducated, we got together and gave them a big big finger.
Yeah. And did you see what happened in I guess it was in Wisconsin last week when about a couple hundred people got together at a beach and had a scream out. They literally stood on the bank of the I guess it's Lake Michigan and screamed at the top of their lungs. These were liberals who would
just feel good afterwards.
I hope so.
Did it change anything?
Well, I hope it changed something for them because it didn't change any outcomes of anything. But maybe they got they say it was maybe it's like venting. Maybe they should in some of these Japanese factories not too long ago when the workers were angry, they had an anger room, and you could go into the anger room, no questions asked, and they had clay dolls. No, they had clay dolls, and you could take as many of the clay dolls as you wanted and smash them against the wall, and then after you got it out of your system, you could go back to the assembly line and go back to work. Maybe that's what they need. Although screaming at the beach, I'm glad they don't do it in the middle of July when there are people at the beach. But I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah. Did you see this story from Ohio here that I guess it was Kay Jewelers? There was an LGBTQ employee in there, and apparently this employee started asking another employee during the conversations. A coworker continuously pressed, I guess the girl's name was Micah, for her personal opinions about Pride Month. And she never engaged. And finally she said, look, she's a Christian, and she shared her beliefs on God's definition of marriage and sexuality. In other words,
they
kept pressing. Yeah. You asked, okay, here's how I feel.
Yeah.
Well, they took it to HR, and HR investigated and said, well, she had to be fired because she was infringing on the rights of the LGBTQ person.
Unbelievable.
So now she's filed a lawsuit, and I hope she wins a ton of money.
Unbelievable.
Because that was an
LGBTQ plus.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an alphabetical person that decided that they were going to sit there and take their liberal way and shove it down, somebody's throat.
You see where Tom Homan got some grief for? There's a funny clip. If you go to Gateway Pundit, you can see it, where one of the anchors makes a face at the end of the following clip. But Tom Homan was responding to the Denver mayor. The Denver mayor said, I'm willing to go over jail to protect my city for being a sanctuary city. Here's how it went. Listen.
Tom, you heard this mayor out there in Colorado. I want to get your reaction to it, and I want you to be clear about who has jurisdiction, the federal government or state and local governments. And if you're a sanctuary state or city, are you breaking the law?
You're absolutely breaking law. All you have to do is look at Arizona versus U.S. You'll see he's breaking law. But look, me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put him in jail because there's a statute. It's Title 8 United States Code 1324 III. And what it says is it's a felony if you knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. It's also a felony to impede a federal law enforcement officer. So if we don't want to help, that's fine. He can get the hell out of the way. But we're going to go do the job. President Trump has a mandate for American people. We got to secure this country. We got to save American lives. And I find it shocking that any mayor of a city would say, President Trump's been clear, we want to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats. I find it hard to believe that any mayor or governor would say they don't want public safety threats removed from their neighborhoods. I mean, I mean, I don't know what the hell's going on in Denver, but we're going to go and we're going to fix it. If you don't want to fix it, if you don't want to protect his communities, President Trump and ICE will.
Wow. And so after that clip ran, the CNN anchor, the young woman who was anchoring, gave this almost surprised, weird look on camera. And I thought, they are so out of touch with their audience. Or maybe their audience is that way, but they're so out of touch with the American people. You know, they cannot comprehend that there's a massive amount of people out there who agree with Homan, who agree with what he had to say. Anyway, I'll remind people that you can get our Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee at rightsideshop.com. Rightsideshop.com. It's on our website. It's our storefront. All you have to do is go to rightsideshop.com, and you'll see all the other stuff. We have T-shirts, sweatshirts, baseball caps, cups, and we've got our Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, medium roast, and decaf roast. And a little portion of everything we sell on that site comes back to us, and we are going to use it for promotion and making the program even bigger than it is. And, of course, we have to pay Juan, Jose, and the Border Crossers.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
And there they go. Thank you, guys. Anyway, that's about it for our show for this weekend update. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's about it. I mean, it's Saturday, so, you know, all bets are off. You never know what's going to happen.
That's true. Just pay attention. We'll be back on Monday, of course, and we'll give you the latest update. And, you know, our Saturday program is always a little more relaxed. But one thing will never change. First of all, I'm done. So you have a wonderful weekend, folks. But one thing that will never change is how we end our program, right?
That's right. It's really simple. You can repeat after me if you want to. You know, just put on your best gnarly face and go, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.